Good evening and welcome to episode 186 of the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Howard Kravitz. Thanks for joining us on a very special second show we have this evening. This one with a fantastic guest from Keeneland Racecourse, the Director of Wagering Operations, Mr. Jim Goodman, will be with us just a moment. Please make sure you subscribe on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. After you do that, hit that notification bell so that you know when new content will come onto the show, and smash that like button. We'd greatly appreciate that. You can see my name tag there, my Twitter handle at HKravitz, and on the bottom of the screen, you see the scroll just past hkravitzhorse@gmail.com. hkravitzhorse@gmail.com is how you can reach me through email. Very quickly, you can listen to us through our listening platform, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Anchor. The Race Day blog, now is the time, folks. Now is the time to purchase that Power Picks, excuse me. It used to be Race Day blog. Now it's Power Picks. Now is the time to choose the Power Picks. They are spot plays, prize plays, ABC grids. They've been on fire. We've hit pick fours, pick fives. Look below the video player for all the information. You go to Patreon. The website is on the screen. With all these Breeders' Cup preps, we're going to have a blowout edition for the Breeders' Cup with a minimum 6 pages on Friday and Saturday, covering all the races. Now is the time. If you're new at our show, check out our Power Picks. They've been on fire with excellent analysis. Highly recommend that. And, of course, we have a fantastic website, hhhracingpodcast.com. We're very excited about that. Also, last thing, we're going to mention it briefly. We are very proud to have Hawthorne Racecourse and Stable Duel as new official sponsors of the HHH Racing Podcast. We got to make that dough, and we're working it, everyone. So got to pay the bills. Thank you very much to Hawthorne and Stable Duel as our new partners on the HHH Racing Podcast. Before we bring on my wonderful guest from Keeneland, let's bring on my fantastic co-host from the East Coast, the Saratoga Special, Mr. Paul Halloran. Paul, how you doing tonight?
Very good. I have my Keeneland 2020 Breeders' Cup hat on. Tribute.
I got my Keeneland gear. It's about that time. This is always an awesome time of year, Paul. We're so excited. We've got Keeneland covered like a glove. We got a big show Thursday night live for the late pick 5 on Saturday with 5 grade stakes, including 3 grade 1s. It's Fall Stars weekend. And the wagering possibilities, Paul, are endless. And the last thing I'll say before we bring on our guest, with Churchill having no turf, you got to figure, Paul, that the turf races at Keeneland, they're always amazing. But because of this unusual circumstance, you got to imagine the field sizes are going to be unbelievable for every single race, but especially the turf races.
Yeah, because they really, if you're in Kentucky, there really weren't, once Kentucky Downs closed, there really weren't a lot of other options to go with. So, yeah, I would suspect you're going to see some oversubscribed races and a bunch of AEs.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. So, without further ado, I want to bring on here our guest. Hold on just 1 second here. All right, I'm going to bring on our guest here. This gentleman is class upon class, Paul. I've had a chance to meet him a few times through my visits at Keeneland and also through the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge we're going to talk about a little bit. He's the Director of Wagering Operations. He's a fantastic job at Keeneland, but he's even a better person. So please welcome for the first time to the HHH Racing Podcast Airways, Mr. Jim Goodman. Jim, how are you, sir? Welcome to the show.
I cannot live up to that invitation or that introduction, but I do appreciate you guys having the Keeneland gear on. That's really cool.
Oh, absolutely. Jim, I know you took a little break last week. I'm assuming you're on vacation. I'm not sure, but well-deserved because this time of year is crazy for you. And just on behalf of myself and Paul and everyone who's listening and watching, we know you have a very busy schedule this week. So we really appreciate you coming on to the show. Very briefly, let's talk a little bit about yourself for people that are not familiar with you. How'd you get into racing specifically at Keeneland?
Well, I retired from a business in state parks, Kentucky State Parks. I was deputy commissioner when I retired. I was 49 years old and looking for a part-time job, and I had a buddy that was a mutual clerk at Keeneland. And of course, we only run in April and October, so it's not a full-time gig. And it was, $20 an hour, and just my kind of job. And if I could have done that the rest of my life, I'd have probably been happy because I wouldn't have to supervise anybody. But it was union, and we couldn't do, I could only work it 2 months out of the year. And then there was a unfortunate situation where someone left the mutuals department, and I applied for it. When they asked me what my qualifications were, I said, well, I've got 30 years of guest service experience, but I've also got 30 years of betting any kind of bet you can throw at me. So they couldn't stump me on the supers or the super high fives or the grand slams or whatever. So I got the job, and I went to work in mutuals, and then the simulcast director retired, took her job, and then the mutuals director retired, and I took his job, and now I'm doing Keeneland Select as well, our ADW. So got a lot of pans in the fire, but it's a great place to work. It's the best place I've ever worked. And as far as racetracks go, you can't beat it.
No, I've been there, I think 3 times, Jim. It'll be my 4th coming up here next month for the BCBC. It's absolutely gorgeous. If you've never been to Keeneland, you got to check it out. The farms around Keeneland, just Lexington in general, is amazing. Jim, I'm trying to get this guy to come to the Breeders' Cup. He lives in the Northeast. He's got a very busy family life and a lot of things, but we're trying to convince him to go with myself and a few other people. A Matt Miller and a Brad Anderson. The Chicago, that gang is coming all back to the BCBC. Jim.
Oh, that's great.
We're trying to get this guy to come with us, Paul. Come on.
I wouldn't rule it out.
Paul.
I wouldn't rule it out.
I talked to Matt. I think I have dinner plans with him on the Wednesday before Breeders' Cup. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Terrific.
That was so cool last year when he won the BCBC, and he was a little nervous about that big bet in the last race on Nick's Go, but he came through with that $30,000 to win and took home over $500,000. So great guy, and he had some guts that weekend. I'll say that.
I don't want to steal his thunder, but all I can say, Jim, is he's got bigger plans for. You thought that was a big bet? He's already got it all mapped out. Matt. He's got bigger plans for this Breeders' Cup. I'm not going to say what it is, but he is going to be firing. Horsey Dave, Jim, you're going to see comments at the bottom of the screen. Feel free to comment on them. Horsey Dave, the pages on the Keeneland website help newest horse players are the best in the country. Way to educate the new fans. I'm going to bring up the website in a second, Jim. I don't know who does your website, but hats off to them because they do a fantastic job, Jim.
Yeah, Krista Marilla and Dara Allen are our 2 people in marketing. Krista's our VP, and Dara's our marketing director. And we revamped the website about 5 years ago, and we keep tweaking it. But I do think it's very friendly, and it's not hard to find things on there. We've got a lot of nice video and a lot of links to a lot of great information about wagering.
Before we talk about your website, Jim, the first thing, and I sort of threw this upon you a little bit late this evening, but because we just got some sponsorship, very excited with Stable Duel for this podcast, which Bree Mott's fantastic. We really appreciate their sponsorship. So let me just bring this weekend. There's a lot of things coming up, which we're going to talk about. But one thing you're going to see on the screen right now is Stable Duel, as you well know, is involved with Keeneland, has some contests. This is Stable Duel. This is their contest schedule. Everyone should check it out. I actually have a banner for that. Let me bring up the banner for there. Here's the banner. There's the website, stableduel.com/contest-schedule. And you can see on the screen here, they have some great contests all week long. If you're not familiar with Stable Duel, I highly recommend everyone check it out. But as you can see on the screen now, Jim, they've got 2 contests for Keeneland on Friday, 2 for Saturday, 2 for Sunday, depending on your budget. Talk a little about your relationship with Stable Duel and Bree Mott, please.
Yeah, Bree Mott has done a great job promoting Stable Duel. She's right here in Lexington, so I know her very well for a long time. And we've got a great relationship with Stable Duel. It's a different type of contest than what I'm accustomed to, but it's caught on, and it's a great way, especially for somebody who's more used to fantasy sports or more used to sports betting, to get into horse racing. So I think it's a good bridge for people who haven't done a lot of parimutuel, but there's a lot of parimutuel players that I see on the leaderboard there every weekend as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had Bree on the show last week. Paul, she was a real joy. And Stable Duel, it's a lot of fun. And, I like the fact, Paul, there we go. Paul, you had a little internet issue. I like the fact, Jim and Paul, that has different amounts, right? I would never criticize anyone for betting $5 a race, $10 a race. Paul, they've got $5 contests. They've got $50 contests. So wherever your budget fits, Stable Duel has that for you.
Yeah, and I think and Jim brings up a good point with the crossover with the sports bettors, and that could not be any more topical because the sports betting is bloating. Even up here in backwoods Massachusetts, we have approved it. We're the 33rd straight to get it. We wanted to be 50. States behind.
Paul, if you can,
doing that.
Paul, if you can hear me, I'm going to take you off the screen a second. We're having some connections issue. Paul, I'll bring you right back. If you can hear me, Paul, we're having connections issue with you. So, Jim, let's get into. I'm going to bring up the website right now. Perfect segue into the Keeneland website because I think it's fantastic. And of course, Keeneland.com/racing /wagering. Let me put yourself on the screen also, Jim. Let's talk about a few things. On the webpage, there's a lot of under the wagering category. There's a lot of things they can look at. Let's first talk about the basics. Give us the basic wagering options that people have at Keeneland. Let's start vertically first. Vertical bets.
Okay, we've been. I think Keeneland has a reputation for being a little bit stodgy, a little bit conservative, but I don't think that's the case for the past few years. I think we've been very aggressive in our wagering menu. And we have gone to lower minimums. We have gone the super high five. We have win, play, show, exact to try. The win bets and win, play shows are only 16% takeout, which is one of the lowest in the country. Exact is 19.5, and tries and supers are a little bit higher at 22, but the payoffs are great with our big fields. And then when you go to horizontal bets, the pick 3, pick 4, pick 5. The pick 5 is an incredible bet for us. We averaged over $1 million per pool in the late pick 5 in the spring, and it's a 15% takeout. And I was just looking at the late pick 5 for we just drew on this afternoon for Friday, and the 5 races in the late pick 5 on Friday have 12, 8, 12, 14, and 12. So
beautiful. I love it.
I wish anybody luck. And one thing that we try to do too here is, if you notice, the first leg of the pick 5 is to make the special weight with 2-year-olds.
Good.
So you look at the board and see if you can figure out if there is some steam on some unraced horses. But then the late pick 4, 8, 12, 14, and 12 with 2-year-old races, when you're in Breeders' Cup races, it's going to pay a ton on Friday. I'll promise that.
And we're just looking at the wagering menu that you brought down. One that I want to talk about in particular that I absolutely love, Jim. I'd like to hear the genesis of this. Is the $3 turf pick 3, which is on the last 3 turf races of the day. You can see on the screen right there, Jim. As I bring you back on, can you talk a little bit about that bet, the genesis of it? And I know it's been very successful. I have to admit, I've always not been very successful with the bet, but it's not because of the bet. It's because you guys have very big fields and it's tough to hit. Talk a bit about the $3 turf pick 3.
One of the things that I discussed with a number of players, a number of well-known players, back during COVID, we were trying to bounce some things off. It was a strange time. We were trying to run races with nobody at the track, and we were trying to look at our wagering menu. And I had a few people that tell me that the 50-cent pick 4 and the 50-cent pick 5 have cut into their winnings. And so the $3 pick 3 came about as something that I thought we could do to reward a bigger player. It's a $3 minimum, so it's hard to cover. You start thinking $3 a pop. It's hard to not single somebody in there, so you can spend a lot of money, and the payoffs have been incredible. We've averaged over $100,000 in the pool. I think the top we had was $230,000 the first year we did it on a Saturday. And I believe that was on Bluegrass Day. But it's a great bet. I mean, just like Friday, I mean, the 3 turf races are all full fields. It's the 4th, 8th, and 10th. It's a little bit difficult to find sometimes because it's got to be a separate wagering entity. You can't do a $3 pick 3 on the same race that you're doing a 50-cent pick 3. Our tote system won't allow that. So it has to be called the Keeneland all turf pick 3. They say
Jim,
that.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can you just emphasize that one more time? Because people
Sure.
look at their ADWs and they try to find it. I've had people actually email and say, where is the all-turf pick? Where's the cross-country pick 5? Can you just repeat what you said one more time, please, Jim? It's very important.
When you look at your ADW menu, it will say Keeneland all turf pick 3. And it should be, if you got it sorted by the time of the race, it should be in there before the fourth race. So you'll have 0 minutes to post for the pick 3, and you also have 0 minutes to post for the fourth race. So it is a little bit harder to find, but trust me, it's worth it. And I've got some people that have just told me they love it. I've got people, Naira copied it from me. And Breeders' Cup copied it from me last year. And we had a all-turf pick 3 on Breeders' Cup Day last year. We're going to have an all-turf pick 3 on Friday this year and an all-turf pick 4 on Saturday.
Ooh, for the Breeders' Cup.
Yes.
Ooh. Paul, the gentleman, Paul's like, oh no, more money.
I have to go. I have to start studying.
Yeah.
It's only a month.
Jim, the gentleman down below is known as the serial horizontal bettor on the show. You just added to Paul. You better check that bank account. You got another bet you got to make on Saturday at the Breeders' Cup.
Well, thank God you got the sponsors.
You got a month to get ready for it, though.
That's right, Jim.
We have a few comments, Jim, I'd like to bring up. This is from Trish Smith. Trish lives in Lexington, Jim, sorry. So she loves the turf pick 3. Made my meet last year. Good for you, Trish. JW, one of the best new wagers that come around in years. So listen, people love the bet in general. Listen, Jim, anytime you try something new, as you know, you're gonna get some detractors, but the pool size is what it is, and the handle basically, I would assume, tells you where you need to go with your wagering menu. Is that correct?
Yeah, you remember, Stronach tried the roulette bet a few years ago, and I mean, I was kind of worried about, they're going to make fun of me for this, but I really researched it quite a bit, and I talked to some players before we started it, and I had some people want to make it a $5 minimum, something like the golden hour wagers, but I thought $3 fit because you can market it, the $3 pick 3, the last 3 turf races of the day. One thing that I wanted to mention is that this fall, we're not running quite as many turf races as we have in the past. And so it will be mostly Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I doubt that we'll have a Wednesday, for example. We only run 8 races, so I doubt if it'll be on Wednesday at all. So it'll be focused on the weekends more. But Paul, you were talking about the turf races. I mean, opening weekend, they're all going to be full. We could have split one on Friday because people are dying to get on the turf here with Churchill's issues. And, Kentucky Downs only runs 7 days. So we're going to have every turf race here, and hopefully we'll have great weather. We got good weather coming up for opening weekend. It's in the 60s, but it's going to be dry. So we were so fortunate in the spring. We had 51 turf races carded, and we took 1 off the turf.
Wow.
Which is amazing.
Paul, do you have a question for Jim?
Well, Jim, I think the key thing you said when talking about that wager is, and you said it twice, that you talk to players. I think in this game that we all love, sometimes the input of the players is not given the proper attention, because obviously without the owners, we don't have a game, but without the players, we don't have a game either. So I think that's really a great way to, from a business point of view, I just think it's a great way to operate. It doesn't mean you're going to please every one of them. As you said, some wanted $5, some probably wanted $2, but getting input from the players, I think, is a terrific idea.
I could agree with you more. I think we get criticized a lot in this industry for not listening to players, and I play myself. That's how I started in the game, and I believe, and Gatewood Bell, my boss here at Keeneland, believes as well that you wouldn't have a game without the gamblers. So we feel very strongly about talking to players, getting their input. And if we need to change something, we'll change it. If we come up with something new that doesn't work, we'll try something else.
Jim, is the reason for the less turf races during the week to sort of save the turf course for the Breeders' Cup? Was that the thought there?
Yes. Yeah. We'll have it's not a lot fewer, but it does. Breeders' Cup years, we always, we're unique because Del Mar runs it at the beginning of their November meet. Right. And we're running it at the end of the meet. So we're going to do some things with, moving the rails and try to protect the main part of the turf course. And because it's Breeders' Cup, you want it at its best for the Breeders' Cup. And there's no way that we want to tear the turf course up opening weekend. So, and it will absolutely be. Our guys do such a great job. It'll be in great shape.
The going stick will be out on the turf course, and I mean, there's so many cool things. I know 3/4 of people, Jim, are saying Howard's off the rails again. What is he talking about? The going stick, folks, is an instrument that they use to put in. Literally, they place it into the turf, and it says how deep it is, and then you put that on the website, and actually you put the going stick in different spots. And then you can go to the website. I'm not going to bring it up, Jim, but you can see like if is the inside better, is the outside better. The level of information that Keeneland gives, Jim, on their turf course, you guys give. I cannot say enough good things about it. It's just fantastic.
Well, I appreciate that. We've got some good people. Jim Pendergast is our turf manager, and he does a great job. He works with the UK, and we want to be able to tell people what we've done to the turf course. You know, we put out our watering schedule. We don't do things that we try to soup the course up. We try to make it fair for everybody. The best job that we can do is that a closer has the same opportunity to win as a front runner.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get into the Breeders' Cup conversation briefly, Jim, let's talk about the contests you guys have at Keeneland. I'm a big contest player, as you know. I love the live money contest. I will say and I know this might disappoint you personally, but I've tried a few times in some larger money tournaments to get into the Breeders' Cup betting challenge to qualify. It hasn't happened. I'm not planning on playing your larger $3,500 one. It's just a little bit outside of my budget, and I'm going to save it for the Breeders' Cup betting challenge entry. But I'm going to bring up on the screen right now, if you could talk about some contests that you guys have for different levels of players this fall.
So each spring and fall, we have 2 contests. So coming up on the 14th and 15th, we do a $400 contest, which basically is very, very simple. It's $250 bankroll, bet pretty much anything you want to inside the race. No pick 3s, pick 4s, anything like that. So it makes it more of a handicapping challenge. And $250 any way you want to do it. And $150 goes to prize fund, and we give away a BCBC spot and 2, 3, or 4 NHCs, depending on how many people we get in. And the reason I came up with this one is a lot of my players would come in for the $3,500 contest that we're going to do on Saturday, and they say, why don't you have a contest on Friday? Or why don't you have a contest on Sunday? And they don't understand that I'm getting old and too old to do this every single day. But I came up with this one because it's pretty easy to run. So we're going to do this one on Friday. And then on Saturday, the $3,500, what we call the BCBC NHC Challenge, is a major feeder into the BCBC. And it's $3,500, $2,500 live bankroll with $1,000 going to prize money. And I had 274 players in my tournament in the spring. I don't expect that many this time because, like you were talking, Howard, people have a budget issue this time of year, and they're saving up for the BCBC. And there are a lot of live money contests. There was one this past weekend in Santa Anita. So I'm expecting maybe 180 to 200. So we'll give away 6 BCBCs, probably 8 to 10 NHC spots, and first place will be $40,000. So last spring it was 65,000. So the winner got 65 grand plus a BCBC plus an NHC, and I think took home 33,000 in bankroll. So it's a very lucrative tournament. We started out with this thing at $2,500 with 32 people in the Keeneland room. I didn't think we'd sell it out. And we kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And now we're online as well. And although I don't like that as much as having people here at Keeneland, it's been a necessity with COVID and with travel restrictions, things like that. So I'll have about half the people here at the track and half the people online.
Jim, I noticed on the Friday contest is on track only. Any thought to making it online available on that one?
Yes.
Please.
When we started the contest, I really felt like that I wanted to get people to come to the track. That was one of the goals. Obviously, it helps handle. It helps the BCBC. It helps NHC. So Michelle and Tim like Keeneland very well. But I still want to get people to come to the track. I could put that online, and as ExpressBet in particular, I mean, we have partners with ExpressBet, TVG, HPI, and Naira Bets. ExpressBet in particular has a lot of contests, and it's no big deal for them to run a bunch of contests in one day. So the scoring issue, when you've got to use the software that Breeders' Cup has to combine the scoring. But I'm not saying I won't do that, especially in the spring, because I'd like to grow that one.
Thanks for that, Jim. before we talk about the Breeders' Cup, Paul, I want to tell a very short story, if I may, Jim. I had the opportunity, Paul, to be on a certain network, as you know, in April. That they're sick of mentioning it because it was a
Jeez, no,
big
I
deal.
never even heard that, Howard. Really? Oh.
I was there in April with Todd Schrupp, Jim. I don't know if you remember this, but
I do, yeah.
I was with my good friend Kyle Roscoe, and I was there for the Grade 1 gamble another time too. But anyway, we were scrambling on where we were going to sit on Sunday. We had just regular grandstand, stadium seats, which would have been just fine. But I had to wear a jacket and tie all day. And I said, Jim, is there anything you can do for us? Maybe the green room. I don't know, anything at all. Paul, within literally 3 minutes, this guy, and there's no reason for him to do this other than just being nice. Gets on the phone, makes some phone calls. The next day, we're in the green room, which is a VIP players room, having some free food and beverages. Jim, I just want to thank you again. It just shows the kind of person that you are and how you take care of the players. And for both of us, we really appreciate that. You didn't have to do that, so I just want to publicly thank you for that.
You're very welcome. Glad to do it anytime I can.
We appreciate it. Jim, let's talk about the Breeders' Cup.
Okay.
It's a huge event, obviously. And I also want to talk about the BCBC, which I'm going to be participating for the second time. You already mentioned that there's a special turf pick 4 on the Saturday Breeders' Cup. Any other special? I know you're going to have I'm assuming you're going to have the 2-day, was it $1? Is it $1 or $2 pick 6? Anything else you want to discuss that you know of right now for the Breeders' Cup?
We expanded. We're going to have 3 pick 5s on Saturday. So there will be a early pick 5, which will have 2 undercard races plus 3 Breeders' Cup races. Then we're going to start another pick 5 with the first Breeders' Cup race, which is actually the 3rd race of the day. So you'll have 1 through 5, 3 through 7, and then you'll have a pick 5 that's actually 7 through 11. The Breeders' Cup Classic is race 11. There's actually one race after that. We had to work that out for TV. So you got 3 pick 5s. You're going to have, like I said, and the pick 4, the all-turf pick 4 on Saturday is a 50-cent minimum, not a $3 minimum. The Friday one is a $3 minimum. So
interesting. Okay.
We did $1 million in that pool last year.
Wow.
So the pools are incredible on Breeders' Cup Day anyway. But you can pretty much bet anything you want to bet. 2-day doubles. I think there are 3 2-day doubles and it'll be turf into turf. The juvenile into the classic, and then I think the juvenile fillies into the distaff. So, so there'll be 3 2-day doubles, and it's just we try to do as much as we can with our wagering menu to try. People don't need to spend all their money on pick 5s because that hurts your churn a little bit. You'd rather them bet the win place show, but the pick 5s are so popular now that we heard about it. Breeders' Cup heard about it when they only offered 2 pick 5s, I think, last year. And so we're going to do 3 on Saturday.
Well, it sounds like race 7 on Saturday is a bridge sort of race,
it is.
Which I don't know what it's going to be. I'm sure you don't know what it's going to be yet, but I know a lot of times it's the turf sprint. We'll see what it's going to be. That is going to be one very important race for people like me. They're going to have it on the end of the beginning of the pick 5, Jim. Let's talk about the BCBC. For those people that do not know, the BCBC is the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge. It's the best live money tournament in the entire world. It's a $10,000 entry fee that anyone could play in. Again, that's a lot of money for a lot of people, but you can try to qualify for it. Last year, Jim, I qualified for it. This year, unfortunately, I'm not. So I'm going to be digging into my pockets and maybe a few other friends and fight for a spot there in the BC and see what I can do. Tell people a little bit about your involvement with the BCBC. Tim Schramm, who many people do not know, who are probably watching this, but I know, of course, you know well, does an unbelievable job with the BCBC. Where are the BCBC players going to be located, if you know already? And then any other information you want to give about the BCBC itself.
Sure. One thing, even if you haven't qualified, when you get to Lexington, we're going to have a last chance tournament on that Thursday. It's all online. We're not running on Thursday. Right. So it was kind of the logistics of doing one. We could have done one at Churchill, but we felt like we'd just go ahead and do it on the Churchill card and everybody could play online. And we're going to have a cocktail party down at Bell's downtown in Lexington for everybody. So hopefully we can get people signed up early, but you can play the online tournament there as well.
Okay.
So that's the first
I will be there, Jim, by the way. I will be there.
Have you already sent your reservation into Mr.
Yes,
Schramm?
sir. All
right,
ready to
good.
go.
We already got like 180 people, so we're gonna have.
Oh wow, that's
great time.
fantastic.
And they've got a great selection of bourbon there, so it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Oh boy.
So that's Thursday, and then the Breeders' Cup players. I think there are 3 hotels, but I'm not sure which ones they are.
Yeah,
I know one of them's out on Newtown Pike, probably the Comfort Suites, and then a couple downtown, maybe the Hilton, and
I think it's right across the street from the Hilton. I'm not sure which one.
And the Hyatt Regency probably as well.
Go.
But we have all the downtown hotels, but I don't know which ones players are in. But
actually, Jim, what I meant, I'm sorry to interrupt you. What I meant is on track. Where are we going to be when we?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Okay,
that's okay.
So we have the entire 3rd floor except for the clubhouse. So in 2015, we used the area between the 2nd floor. The elevator on the 2nd and 3rd floors is elevator B to elevator C. Those 2 elevators that come up for the paddock area. So we had one big area that seated about 250 people. This time we've got the green room, the bluegrass room, which will seat about 150, and another room that's going to seat about 40. So we've got the entire 3rd floor there. Wow. The Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge has grown substantially since 2015. We had about 430, I think, in 2015. Last year we had 534 at Del Mar, and half them were on track. So we're expecting 250 to 300 people on track, and plus their guests. So we're going to have the entire 3rd floor. The main area overlooks the paddock area. We got a brand new paddock. I don't know if you've heard about that or not, but we tore our paddock. We completely tore our paddock up.
Really?
Took all the grass out, resodded. And if you remember, we had a paddock where you circled the trees, like 2 horses would circle the trees.
Right.
Very dangerous situation for people watching those horses that don't really know what they're doing. So we made it one big long oval, more like a European style.
Wait, are you talking about the saddling area, or are you talking about
the saddling area, not the walking ring? So where they actually saddle. So there is a saddling paddock area at the very end, and then they'll come out on that long oval instead of circling the trees.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
but it's beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous right now. We tore it all up, and we've already fixed it. So all those windows overlook the paddock area, and then they have access out to watch the races on the 3rd floor grandstand. So it ought to be a great place, and everybody's going to be very close to each other. At Del Mar, we were very chopped up. We had 3 or 4 areas that we used through BCBC.
Yeah. By the way, Jim, table for 4 in the green room, please. Myself, Brad Anderson, Matt Miller, and one other person. If you can hook that up, we'll talk after the show. No pressure.
All right.
We got a good question from Derby Bandit on the bottom of the screen. This is a serious question for people who've never played or been to a Breeders' Cup. What if you want to play the 10K challenge but don't have a ticket for Saturday? It says they're sold out online. I don't know. I'm not sure about that. If you have information, Jim.
Okay, sure.
Derby Bandit.
Yeah. So what we do for somebody who plays in the BCBC, that $10,000 gets you $7,500 in live bankroll. $2,500 goes to the prize fund, but it also gets you 2 tickets. So if you want to play in the BCBC, you will get a ticket for yourself and a ticket for your guest, and that gets you admission to the track and will get you a seat on the 3rd floor. So if you're going to bet that kind of money, if you're going to bet $7,500 on those 2 days anyway, it is really a no-brainer to do it because the 2 tickets, I just got my tickets in the mail today. I was going to show them to you.
Oh.
Anybody seen the new Breeders' Cup tickets? Let's see if I can do this.
I have not.
Can you see that?
Wow.
Look at that.
Very nice.
Beautiful.
Jim, I don't know if you can see right back. Can you see this right back here? This was last year.
Yeah.
That was last year's Breeders' Cup ticket at Del Mar.
So that's the picture of the paddock, obviously, with our sycamore tree.
Beautiful. I love it.
So that's our tickets. They just came today.
All right.
So if that person wants to play, have them get in touch with me or Tim Schramm, and we can take care of it. And all you got to do is register online. Go to BCBC, Breeders' Cup /BCBC, and enter the contest. And Tim Schramm will pick up the phone and call you and say, what kind of tickets do you need? So,
Jim,
that's
can you repeat that website one more time for people that want
Breeders' Cup, breederscup.com /BCBC.
Okay. So Derby Bandit, you're all good, man. You don't worry about tickets being sold out. You get tickets, of course. I know that, but I want you to clarify, Jim. If you want to go to the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge, you don't have to worry about on-track tickets. They will take care of
One thing, we are not completely sold out. There are tickets available now. General admission is sold out.
Okay.
So, but there are tickets available in the Silk Chalet, I believe, in the Saddling Paddock Chalet. Now, those are rather expensive tickets, but
There we go. From Penn State, Scott at the bottom. Do you want to just expound quickly on that? And then, Paul, happy to ask any questions you have about the Breeders' Cup or anything else, Paul.
yes, I actually got mine today. I know we have, and I bought some for my family, but I'll be there anyway. They came out either. Some people got them today, and some people are getting them tomorrow. So they were shipped FedEx Express, I guess, on Monday.
Okay. Terrific. Paul, any questions about the Breeders' Cup or anything specifically about betting at Keeneland for Jim?
I would just say, Jim, it's got to be great to host it, but you guys gear up for the two Keeneland meets, which are a big deal, and I know you have plenty of advance notice, but as you say, adding the Breeders' Cup to the end of the meet has to be a pretty formidable task, I would think.
The one thing, it's much easier now the third time we've done it. The first time in 2015, there were a lot of naysayers who said that we couldn't do it. And we took it as a challenge, and our staff worked their tails off. And we have a small track. If you've been to Keeneland, we can handle about 25,000 people on a normal day. We got to handle about 45,000 on that Saturday. Well, we're adding 10,000 seats, including with the chalets and the new box seats out front called the loge boxes. And we've controlled the number of people that are on the grounds on the first floor. So the people that went there in 2015, I believe, to a person, had a great experience. There weren't lines for betting, for beer, for bathrooms. So we're going to do that again. 2020 was really easy because there was nobody there, 3,500 people. But this one's going to be a full-blown deal, and it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. I mean, there's nothing I will never forget. The BCBC was going on, so we walked out from the third floor and watched American Pharoah come down the stretch. I have never felt that grandstand like it was that day. And I don't know if we're going to duplicate that, but if Flight lines up by 12, it might be the same way because he's obviously a magical horse. So we may get lucky again. We may see this super horse just like we saw Pharoah in 15.
Jim, I've got two other quick questions for you, if you don't mind, then we'll let you go. We really appreciate your time. This first one's a bit an unfair question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you have a particular favorite wager to bet at Keeneland? Whether are you a more horizontal guy? Do you prefer vertical? And just to piggyback off that question, what do you recommend for the inexperienced bettors at Keeneland? What kind of bet should they make, perhaps?
Sure. I love the pick 4 and pick 5. If I can't single, I don't play a pick 4 or pick 5 because my bankroll is limited. I think if you're going to play those kind of horizontal wagers, if you don't have an opinion in one race or hopefully 2 in a pick 5, you shouldn't play it. Get with some of your friends, and maybe they've got, do a group ticket. For the person who hasn't bet before, it's win, place, and exactus. And if I'm trying to teach somebody that's their first time at the racetrack and they're not thrilled about getting $7 back for 2, I try to teach them how to play an exacta box. And that's as far as you need to go with a new player. And once they learn that and they want to go into more horizontals, that's fine. But they're not there generally to get rich, and all they want to do is cash tickets. And when they cash tickets, they're going to like the game. So I want to keep it simple for those people. And if you can do an exacta and churn that money, you can make some money over a course of a day.
And with the pool sizes and with the sizes of the field sizes, you can get a 2-to-1, $5-to-2 exacta for $15. I mean, it'll pay better than it should because of the pool size and field sizes, correct?
And trifectas, especially when you get into trifectas, that's where the payoffs at Keeneland really become great. I think when you can't figure out who's going to finish third. So the biggest trifectas I've ever hit have been trying to key a horse either first or second with all. So that's a little more advanced. But I like for people to play exactas and daily doubles. A lot of people don't play daily doubles anymore. It's kind of a forgotten wager. It's a very lucrative wager. And just ask Jonathan Kinchin how you can make money on playing doubles, because he's one of the best contest players in the world. and he plays almost exclusively doubles.
So I've heard. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
JK is fantastic. I have a question from a viewer. By the way, if you have any, Jim, do you have 10, 15 minutes, or you got to go?
Oh, sure.
I don't.
I'm fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Any questions for Jim? That we have a lot of people listening and watching right now, Jim. Any questions? Please put them in the live chat. We'll just do some real quick questions. Actually, before I get to the viewer questions, my last question, Jim. Are you ready? Will there be a bridge jumper in the show pool on Flightline? Yes or no? What do you say?
Oh, I would say yes. I don't know. I'm not a fan of bridge jumpers. And one of the things that we haven't talked about that's going to come up on Breeders' Cup, I meant to talk about it, I had a note here, is we're breaking to the penny now.
Oh, well, you guys are too, right? Okay.
Yeah, so all of Kentucky, that was a statute.
Right.
So it started at Ellis and continued at Churchill Downs and Kentucky Downs. But what they did not do, they did not remove the minimum payoff. So we still have to pay $210 on a show bet. What I would have preferred is that we go to $201, and that would have eliminated bridge jumpers.
That's interesting.
But you can still do $210. So whoever takes the wager is going to get stuck with a negative breakage because it should pay $201 or less than $201.
Yeah. That's
yeah, I'd say, maybe if somebody wants to make 5% of their money, maybe they can do that. I don't feel good about doing that because a lot of things happen in a horse race that you can't depend on. So I will never bet I will bet the other horses in that race $2 to show. But yeah, and we would be killed if we took the show wagering out of that race, I guess. So
that's what I heard. No, it's going to be an unbelievable race. Last few questions, Jim, and let you go. These are questions again from viewers. Anyone watching the show, please ask. Ross Blacker has a question. He's bringing his 6-year-old. Does the 6-year-old need a ticket? Do you have an age limit as to for people that have to purchase tickets?
Yeah, he does have to have a ticket at 6. 2 and under don't have to have tickets for general admission, but 6 does have to have a ticket. Yes.
Okay. Question. This is really more of a handicapping question from Cindy. We have a lot of female viewers that watch the show, Jim, and I know you guys value all your horse players. Do the outside horses get punched a bit when the rail gets moved out? I'm assuming she's, of course, talking about the turf course. Have you seen any trends with the turf course from a wagering perspective when the rails are moved out?
I think anytime you move the rail out, it becomes a little more speed favoring. But I don't think our course is wide enough, and we place the rails so that the turns aren't too tight. So I don't think you can eliminate an outside horse. If I had a horse in the 10 hole and a horse in the 2 hole that I felt equal about their chances, I would favor the 2 horse, but I certainly wouldn't toss the 10 in a race like that because I think we have a very fair course.
There's a horse named Order of Australia who I think did just fine from an outside post. Jim paid, what was he, 60 to? I can't remember what he paid, but
more than I remember that horse very well.
No, I wasn't smart enough to use that horse.
Not me pick 5.
Last point from Horsey Dave. I'm just gonna. I will agree with this. The Old Frankfurt Pike Scenic Drive, just beyond the track, arguably the prettiest drive in America. I haven't found any drives in Lexington that are not beautiful, Jim. It's just a fantastic place. We just wrap up the show. Anything you want to promote with Keeneland that we didn't cover? Anything about yourself? You have a great Twitter. I really enjoy your tweets, Jim, because you keep it real. And I'm not going to get into details. You know what I mean when I say that. Yeah. Anything you want to promote, Jim, as we wrap up the show?
Sometimes on Twitter, I have to be very careful because I wear multiple hats. So I don't want any of my Twitter comments to be construed as Keeneland's official comments. So, but my Twitter handle is at Keeneland Jim. So I should have put it on there, but I didn't do that.
That's okay.
Yeah. And the question that the gentleman had with his child, if he was asking about Keeneland's regular meet, there is no ticket requirement for under 12.
Okay.
So the Breeders' Cup is. So I didn't know, he didn't say Breeders' Cup or Keeneland, but he can certainly bring his child to Keeneland's regular meet and he will get him free.
I think he means Breeders' Cup. And just for the record, Jim, you have no control over that. That's controlled by the Breeders' Cup, correct?
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. I just wanted
Breeders'
to mention
Cup sets all the policies for that.
Yeah.
No, I just think that if you never come to Keeneland, I encourage you. I mean, Paul, you're from the Northeast. I absolutely love Saratoga. I love Del Mar and Santa Anita, but I think those 4 tracks, if you're a horse player, you need to go see all of them. And I'm prejudiced. I think Keeneland is the prettiest track in the country. I know that we treat you well when you come here. the Green Jackets open the door for you and they say please and thank you and how you doing, and that's important to us to make those people feel welcome at Keeneland. And we used to have a little reputation of, well, it's a little snotty that we have to dress up to come to Keeneland. Everybody's welcome at Keeneland. There'll be guys in the paddock with flip-flops and shorts on, and there'll be a man and a woman dressed to the nines up in the clubhouse. So absolutely. It's a real mix of people. We will treat you well in Kentucky. You will enjoy a lot of scenic drives, not only Old Frankfort Pike, but Paris Pike is absolutely gorgeous. There are distilleries in central Kentucky that you need to go see, Woodford Reserve, Buffalo Trace. It's just a wonderful place to live and a wonderful place to visit if you're a horse player or if you're a horse lover.
Yeah, I can double down and vouch for the doors being held open. Paul, no one opened the door for me at the 1863 Club at Saratoga. I'll tell you that. Paul, any final thoughts or questions for Jim? We'll wrap it up here.
No, just Jim, it's been a pleasure. We haven't met in person, and I look forward. If I don't make it for the Breeders' Cup, I will be there post-haste because I need to go visit my favorite horse of all time, Curlin, who is over at Salapa. So
one of my favorites as well.
All right, Jim Goodman, we really appreciate your time, sir. I look forward to seeing you on Breeders' Cup weekend. Good luck with with everything you do at Keeneland and your fall meet, and then, of course, in the Breeders' Cup. We'd love to have you on again at the proper time, and, of course, good luck with all your contests as well. Thank you very much, Jim. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Jim.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Take care, Jim. Bye-bye. Jim's a great guy, Paul. I mean, he tells it like it is, and he does a fantastic job, and their wagering menu is outstanding.
I have a headache, Howard, thinking of this Breeders' Cup.
I hear you.
I think I just decided I'm not working that week.
Well, maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you have to work a lot in order to pay for all the.
I'll have to work a lot. I'll have to work a lot the next week.
Absolutely.
But no, I normally take that Thursday, Friday, but I think that week is going to be. But no, it's great. Hey, look, it's the culmination for, we follow it all year, obviously, and I think the people who watch this show do. And, there really isn't a downtime, but, it does from Breeders' Cup to maybe the Malibu, you get a little bit of you can catch your breath a little bit. But this time of year, you go from Saratoga to Kentucky Downs to the final preps, right into the Keeneland meet and into the Breeders' Cup, regardless of where it is. It just happens to be remaining at Keeneland. So it's absolutely. I mean, I won't say it's the best time of year because for me, Saratoga is the best time of year. But it really is, as far as betting quality horses day after day. Which the Keeneland meets the two meets, which I think are about 30 days total, maybe, Howard, something like that.
Yeah.
15 and whatever they are. I know there are 22 stakes races in the upcoming fall meet, and I think that's more than. I think it's about 1.5 per day on average.
It's gonna be great. I'm praying the weather's gonna work out for the Breeders' Cup. You never know. Early November in Kentucky. I mean, it's not gonna be cold, but it could be, in the 50s or whatever at worst. And hopefully the rain will stay away. But anyway, we want to thank Jim Goodman very much, and Paul, thank you. For staying on with us for our second show this evening. If you didn't see episode 185, which also was tonight, we had a great time recapping the races from this weekend. Then just to wrap up, Paul, this Thursday, as you well know, you'll be on the show.
I will.
Derbyologist Craig Johnson will be here. We're in a deep dive into the late pick 5 on Saturday at Keeneland for their big day. 3 grade 1s, 5 grade stakes in total. So there'll be many grade stakes in the late pick 5. And then this Saturday, Paul, live right here on the HHH Racing Podcast, live coverage, time TBA. It'll be about, I would say, 4:30 to 6 Eastern time, somewhere around there. We're going to cover the 3 grade 1s at Keeneland and deep dive into handicapping and watch the races live right here. So hopefully you can join us on one of those shows, or why not, Paul? Just join us for everything. For Paul Halloran, this has been your host, Howard Kravitz, episode 186 of the HHH Racing Podcast. Good luck with all your wagers, all meet long and in the Breeders' Cup at beautiful Keeneland Racecourse. Take care, everyone. Have a great night. Bye-bye.